the last talk went really well, so we thought we'd continue to do them online. So today I'll be talking about research experiences both in Oman and the UAE. Just a bit of background: I grew up here. I moved here when I was 12, and I've spent most of my life here in the region. So I've come across quite a few projects along the way, and I'd like to share them with you. Okay, so I'll run through my experiences on the Arabian Leopard expedition in Dhofar. That happened in 2010, so it's quite a few years ago now, but still good memories from there. And then I'll talk to you about the Loggerhead turtles in Masirah, Oman. Then go back down to Dhofar, where I joined the Arabian Humpback Whale expedition. And then I'll come back to the UAE, where I've been involved in projects, UAE Dolphin project and also RAC Wildlife project. Okay. So to start with, I joined Biosphere expeditions in 2010. So Biosphere bring out you voluntarily pay to join expeditions around the world, to join citizen science, sort of collecting data and this project was for the Arabian leopards down in Dhofar. So some people are joining from all over the world. I just want to give you a bit of a background about Dhofar. It's quite unique in that the monsoon from the Indian Ocean hits the coast, and this mountainous region here that you see, this was taken in winter. But in summer, this will be completely green, complete green vegetation. So it really attracts, or it really hosts a lot of biodiversity, including leopard and other large carnivores. So our research was in a place called Wadi Ayoun. Just for anybody that doesn't know what a wadi is, it's the dry riverbed in the mountain regions. Okay, so a little bit about Arabian leopards. They are critically endangered. The population that we think are in the Arabian Peninsula is about 200, but we think only about 50 individuals remain in Dhofar, roughly. They're quite elusive creatures, animals, so getting data about them is very much dependent on camera trapping and remote surveys. So the research was started by David Willis, Hadi and Khalid Al-Hikmani, who are two Omani guys from the region, and Dr. Andrew Spalton at the Diwan of Royal Court. So in Dhofar now, the leopards are only restricted to the Jebel Samhan Nature Reserve and adjacent mountain range. And they're really quite rare to see. So what we were looking for were signs of scraped scat and prints, both of leopards and of other animals as well. And the main threats to the leopards down there is habitat loss, but also human-wildlife conflict, to name a few. So this is a map of the area. The Arabian leopards were sort of all over the Arabian Peninsula, but nowadays they're quite restricted to sort of pockets in southern Oman, Yemen, and up into Saudi. So these are a few photos of Arabian leopards caught in camera traps, all taken by Hadi and Khalid and his team in Oman. The top left is a screenshot from BBC Wild Arabia. There is a clip on YouTube that I highly recommend you have a look at after this presentation, just to see sort of the behavior that they've caught on these camera traps, the breeding behavior, the mating calls, and also just the spectacular scenery that the leopards occur in. So this is one of the wadis that we surveyed. This is this type of, there's a leopard, no, I'm joking, that's come into, that's in that area. So there's quite a lot of water, even in the winter time. This was our base camp where we camped in Wadi Ayoun. Everybody had their individual tents, and then there was the main tent where the field guides, field books and all sorts were in there, all the equipment as well. So another view of the campsite. And a few visitors. So overnight there was lots of scratching going on under the tent, really not sure what was there, and then in the morning trying to open my tent with a huge spider on the door, and then Tristram's grackle, again something that you can maybe have a look at or listen to. They're really nice whistles that you wake up to as your alarm clock. So every day we'd have a briefing in the morning and the evening. I think this was our very, very first briefing where Ronald went through what to expect, all the health and safety things, and really getting us motivated for the next few days of surveys. And this is Tessa McGregor, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but she was a big cat researcher, and she absolutely loved coming to Oman and helping the Omanis find all of the different wildlife. So she taught us how to identify all the different signs that we can find, and also walk us through how to document or how to collect that data into trying to get good scientific data. That's Ronald again. So he was the trip leader, German guy who was very organized. he always thought of health and safety first and going through what we were doing for the day. So this is the type of landscape that we were hiking through every day. Really quite misty, cold to start with, and then during the day it sort of heated up and it was quite hot hiking through these mountains. Again, unfortunately, just before this photo was taken, I saw 3 Arabian wolves just sort of go across one of those tracks, which was quite something. So yeah, there are lots of huge rock formations in the area, hiking sort of up steep slopes or in trying to find caves, and Khalid Al-Hikmani there is sort of leading us. He obviously does this work day in, day out, so he knew all the areas that we should try and survey or try and explore. Here we are collecting some scat for DNA purposes, so just documenting the GPS locations and making sure that we've got all the data. And we also come across some poaching incidents, so we also noted that down as well. So this is the leftover carcass of ibex, Nubian ibex. Another sort of landscape shot of what it was like to survey down there. And then this was another briefing by the campsite, really thinking about where should we go next, or where's the best place to go, and set up camera traps. So Khalid and his team already had some existing camera traps up that are really collecting lots of data, but also we set up new ones as well. And the only sort of limitations of a camera trap is battery life and SD memory card. So, these camera traps can be left out for a very long time, collecting data all the time. Another landscape. And again, we really tried to follow where Khalid has been before, and sort of think how the wildlife would transverse the landscape, you know, on tracks, on trails, into caves, and see if we can collect as much data as possible. And we were split into groups. So unfortunately on this day, I wasn't joining this team, but they went to a top secret location called the Leopard Cave, and they found leopard prints. So that's really exciting. Also, we set up some camera traps around camp, and this is Porcupine visiting our kitchen area one of the nights. Going from top left, it's an Arabian red fox, and then honey badger, Arabian wolf, and striped hyena. And also we caught small mammals as well. And this is a hyrax, sorry. As well as surveying and collecting wildlife data, it was important to also speak to the local farmers and herders who use the area regularly, and find out from them how wildlife has been, how it is now, and really trying to find out if they've come across leopards or other wildlife. So Tessa here was speaking through Khalid to the local camel herder in the local language of Jabali. So down in Dhofar, they don't speak, well, they do speak Arabic, sorry, but they also speak Jabali, which is a very specific language for the region. So this is a few days old camel, and typical Omani hospitality, you can't say no to some very fresh camel milk. So we got to sample the camel milk from the herder. And then as well, we went into local schools, and Khalid and his team gave presentations, gave out education material to raise awareness about local wildlife there as well. So it was really, really a good experience for me. This was just before I went to university, so I knew after this experience that I wanted to go into ecology and wildlife conservation. Okay. So the next project, I volunteered with the Environment Society of Oman in Masirah Island. So Masirah Island has a large nesting population of loggerhead turtles. And we started out with nesting surveys and hatching success. And then I later asked if I could go back and do my undergraduate dissertation there on artificial light and its impacts on hatchling orientation. So for those of you who don't know, Masirah Island is quite a large island just off the east coast of Oman in the Arabian Sea. It's about a 5-hour drive from Muscat. It's quite far. The ferry that leaves Shanna port goes every hour and a half, 2 hours. And if you miss it, there's not much around. So that was quite an experience. And also there wasn't at the time a queue system. So it was very much, you know, who can get on fastest to get to Masirah. Also, that area there, just on the mainland of Oman, just next to Masirah, is called Bar al Hikman, which attracts thousands and thousands of migratory birds. So if you ever visit Oman, I would highly recommend driving down to that area. So loggerhead turtles are critically endangered on the IUCN list, and the ones found nesting on Masirah are genetically isolated. Nesting season is between April and August, And other species of turtle also nest on the island, but in much smaller numbers and different parts of the island as well, because different species of turtles prefer certain conditions of the beach. So some species prefer sandy beach, some species prefer more rocky vegetation, sand dunes. And then from between their nesting season, the turtles use the length of the Omani coast for feeding and just traveling up and down there. So this is us excavating a loggerhead nest after the hatchlings had left, and what we really wanted to do was see how many eggs hatched successfully and then count how many weren't successfully hatching. And I can't explain to you the smell. We tried to get them as fresh as possible, but yeah, it was really tough work. The guys were doing the digging and we were sort of doing the egg counting. And then we'd also take other data. If we found hatchlings, we'd take measurements as well. So I don't know how many of you have experienced seeing turtles nesting, but it really is quite an experience. Just watching them come up to the beach and then choose their spot, dig out their nest, and then lay her eggs. So we also counted how many eggs each turtle laid that we came across. Obviously, being as sensitive as possible to not disturb them. So these are all tracks from turtles going up and down the beaches, and we'd go up to the top of the track and see if the female has actually nested, because some females come up and they change their mind, they don't decide to nest and they come back down again. So we also collected that data. Okay, this is one of the females that came up to nest. She nested, but then she got caught in fishing net on the beach. So we untangled her, made sure she was okay, and this is her going back to sea, which was quite nice. Some turtles really go, on an adventure. So I don't know if you can see, but up the far right, those are the waves up there. So she really went a long way that night I don't think she nested, but she really went a long way and just exhausted, bless her. So we found her and we sort of coaxed her back towards the beach. We didn't really want her to get stuck down here where the road is. Sorry. Okay. And then sometimes she doesn't really time it right. So the tide had gone out by this time. The sand is just above this tidal line here. So she'd come up, she nested, and then missed the tide that was going out. So unfortunately, she got stuck on these rocks, but we made sure that she made it back to sea. Other wildlife found on Masirah, these donkeys, and of course, a camel always has to feature in an Arabian wildlife presentation. So, and then there's quite a good population of Egyptian vultures on Masirah as well. And there were both juveniles and adults. So we also made sure that we collected population data on there as well.
Do you want to watch that? I'm going to go and do that.
Okay, so then I came back to Masirah and I wanted to study the impact of artificial light on the hatchlings. And with the help of 4 volunteers, Kathy, I want to say their names, Kathy, Claudio, Alex and Nick, we collected data on the impact of lights on those hatchlings. So a bit of background information, only 1 or 2 in every 1,000 hatchlings reach sexual maturity, which is about 45 years. So it really is a long time to to develop into a breeding female. Always return to the same beach that they hatch on. And when turtles come up from their nest, they always look for the brightest horizon. So that should usually always be the sea and if there is a moon, the moon shining onto the Can everybody mute themselves? Sorry. Who is that? Hello?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to mute him, but I can't get it.
Sorry.
I don't know what's up.
It's okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so they come out of their nest and they always look for the brightest horizon. So that usually is if the moon is out shining on the sea, and that would be their brightest horizon. Now, if you have artificial lights such as street lights or just general house lights, that will sort of disorientate them, and they might be attracted to those lights instead, which increases their likelihood of either being predated or going the wrong way and just sort of dying of exhaustion. So it really is quite an important human threat to look at. Okay, so just going through some of the sites that we surveyed, or we did the experimentation. The hotel, there was a hotel on one beach, there was the Royal Air Force Base, a football stadium, and also, sorry, I've lost my place, and also Hilf Main Town. Sorry, that Hilf Main Town is not where we did one of the experiments. Sorry, my dog's just come into the room. I'm just a bit distracted. Okay, so we were looking for pivots like this in the beach. So this is where, I don't know if you can see from here, but the sort of little black parts in that lighter sand, that's the head of a hatchling. So that's what we were looking for to collect baby hatchling turtles. These are the 2 volunteers that were with us, Nick and Alex, and also the Omani ranger that I think he's still doing his conservation work there. His name is Aynadib, which means Eye of the Wolf, because he always had very, very good eyesight. These are a couple of the hatchlings that sorry, I didn't explain, but we needed to collect hatchlings to put them in an artificial sort of setup where, I'll come to that later, but we needed to collect turtles to see how they respond to the lights in a situation that is natural. So we didn't set up the extra lights. The lights were there, but we needed to, I'll get onto it later. So yes, this is the arena. So we put the turtles in the middle of that arena at night, and then we wanted to see which direction they would go. And you can just about see the tracks running through that arena there. So this was a reference beach. This is a beach that didn't have any artificial light, and the majority of them went towards the sea, luckily. So that's a natural environment. So this is the results that we had. All of that blue blue part of the circle is the sea, so that the degrees of the sea, and luckily they all went naturally towards the sea. These are the other light scenarios at other beaches on Masirah. So there's a football stadium, and that creates that glow that you can see at the bottom left there, which is really quite bright from, I think, 5 kilometers away at least. Then the hotel that's there, and a private house as well. So this was on one of the beaches where we were looking at how much the streetlights impact their orientation. And as you can see, a lot of so we used to put a kebab stick in the line where the turtle crossed. We safely released them afterwards, I promise. So you can see that most of the turtles were either going straight to the lights, or they were really just sort of going one way and then turning the other way. And so it is really quite apparent how much the light impacts their orientation. So there was a little bit of difference between new moon and full moon. So when there was a full moon, the turtles orientated the right way towards the sea, which is quite good. But obviously that only happens very rarely every month. Okay, and then this is the hotel and the impact of the lights there. So most turtles didn't go the right way, and they were attracted to those lights as well. So on every site, over 60% of hatchlings were going the wrong way towards the lights there. More so on the beach with the hotel. Just to add to that. The situation there now, I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure it's a bit more developed than when I was there. But the artificial lights really do have quite a significant impact on hatchlings, and that would be a long-term impact, because you wouldn't see it in the population until quite a long time. Sorry, for quite a long time, because of how long it takes for them to reach sexual maturity and breed, and so it really is quite significant. So now on to Arabian humpback whales. Back down to the Dhofar coastline. So we were doing surveys just off Hasik and Mirbat, and we were trying to find humpback whales to satellite tag with PTT tags. So why are they so special? They don't migrate like other humpback whales. They stay pretty much in that area. It's quite a small population of only up to 100 individuals. They've been isolated from the Indian Ocean population for 70,000 years. And that means that they've also created their own songs and almost their own culture in a way, where they really are isolated from other humpback whales. The threats to the humpback whales down there are mostly coastal development, but also ship strikes and entanglement in fishing gear. So this project was a collaboration between Renaissance Whale and Dolphin Project, Environment Society of Oman, and then scientists from 5 Oceans, who then invited volunteers to come along and help with the surveys. So to identify each individual humpback whale, you tend to look at their tail and the shapes and the patterns of their tails, but also look for other features on the dorsal fin as well. So this is a map of the area, just not far from where I also did the Arabian leopard research as well. So Hasik is pointed there, down the coast to Mirbat, and then off to, we didn't go as far as the Halania Islands, we sort of stuck to that area there. This was my camp spot for quite a few nights, which is really nice. I can't complain of the view, and the area is really beautiful coastline. This was another campsite that we moved to between those two areas where we thought we'd find more humpback whales than the other, so we'd move between those two. And this was one of the research boats that we used. So sometimes part of the team were on boat duty, and sometimes they were on land-based duty. So cliff top surveys were almost as important as being on the boat. So you're looking out for humpback whales, but also other species as well. And then you had I had a radio to communicate with the boat, to tell them what I've seen and and report back. So very nice, again, just to spend the day there observing, and very small fishing communities mainly, and that's where we'd have our ice creams and field snacks from. And then we'd come across other animals as well, camels on the beach, and nice raptors passing by. I think that's usually what we'd see. We wouldn't really see them very close up, but sometimes we managed to see them quite clearly, which is really nice. And then other days when we were resting, let's say, we'd also be put to work on beach stranding surveys. So we'd walk up and down the beaches looking for whales, dolphins, and turtle carcasses or strandings. And we'd collect their measurements, skin samples if we could, and also just trying to identify them in the field and collect all the data that we could. Other wildlife found there, little juvenile flamingos, whooping gazelle, crabs. And then these are some of the really nice close-up images of some of the dolphins and they're so close to shore. Sorry if I'm going too fast. This was a group of bottlenose dolphins. Okay, this is when I'm trying to play you I don't know. Sorry, I want to play you a YouTube clip. Can I just pause share? 1 second. Can everyone see the YouTube now? Can you not?
No, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, okay.
I think you need to stop share and then reshare the YouTube screen.
Okay. Thank you, Melanie. Yes, there we go. Am I back on the presentation now?
Yep, you're back.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'd put our acoustic equipment into the sea and listen out for calls like that. And sometimes we were so lucky that those humpback whale calls were coming up through and reverberating through the hull of the boat. So it really quite a special experience.
ووضعي الآن أنا يعني بالستين تقريبا عمري أو فوق 60. مغيب الحركة الآن بحكم الوضع هذا 6 شهور لنا تقريبا أو 7 شهور.
Somebody's got their microphone on. Do you mind muting?
داخل مع ناس شراكات.
Hello. Sorry. Dr. Ali?
Yes.
Please, can you mute your microphone?
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I forgot my
It's
mobile.
okay.
Yeah,
It's
I'm really
okay.
sorry. No,
Thank
I'm
you,
okay.
thank you. That's
Yeah,
okay.
Thank
you.
Sorry for that.
That's fine. So these are some of the sightings that we had of the humpback whales. Very much quick glimpses of the backs of the whales. Sometimes we could see the tails as they dove quite deep down. So go through some of these photos. So when we found the whale, the team would tag. So there was a scientist from the US who came along, and she's highly skilled in tagging whales, I think specifically humpback whales. So managed to tag quite a few over the years. So this project has been going on for a few years now. And this is just some of the data that came up from those tags. So you can see that they're really hugging that coastline, but also wandering off to the Halania Islands and then up towards Masirah, which is where the loggerhead turtle research happened as well. So those lines that go through the land are just GPS points that aren't quite right, but that's the sort of general idea of where they migrate to. So on to the UAE Dolphin project, back to the UAE. Also volunteered for humpback dolphin land-based surveys on Sadia Island, Abu Dhabi. I've been volunteering for the UAE Dolphin project for many years, but this was a year of going and surveying every week if the weather conditions were right, and we'd set up on the beach restaurant of the Park Hyatt on Saadiyat. So done a little map here showing where that is. So Abu Dhabi Island is there, and Saadiyat just on the coast here. So we'd survey that whole coastline of Saadiyat Island at the top there. Luckily from the top of the restaurant. So we'd really have panoramic views across. This was a really misty day. The visibility wasn't great, but by the time the survey, we started quite early, but by the time the sun came out, it would sort of dissipate all of that mist, and it would become a bit clearer to see the dolphins. So a team of volunteers, about 3 or 4 of us, would sort of scan. Every member would take turns in having the binoculars. So we'd always scan with the binoculars for about 10-15 minutes each. Another person is the scribe, so they're taking down all the data, and then we're just generally looking out to see if we can spot any dolphins passing by. So this was a lucky day. On Wednesdays was when we were doing the surveys, and we were very lucky in that most days we would actually see dolphins, which is really, really, really great. And this is one of the videos that I managed to take. It's from a phone, so I'm very sorry about the quality, but yeah, that's usually the glimpses that we would have. Let's see if I can get the next one. And then sometimes we would really see quite spectacular behavior. So that's really nice to see the dolphins sort of display and play. Yeah, so also for 5 years I worked on the Socotra Cormorant breeding project on Masirah Island. And these are just a couple of photos that we took with aerial drones. Quite a big population nests on this island, and we were using the drones to count how many nests there are, and also sometimes we could count how many eggs and chicks as well. So quite nice. Quite nice footage from there. Really enjoy my time researching the cormorants as well. Nowadays, I also volunteer for Iraq Wildlife Project. So this covers all sorts of different surveys, from insect surveys to collaring Blanford's fox, and then collecting data on small mammals and trying to raise awareness of local wildlife in Ras Al Khaimah, Emirates. Sorry, those who don't know UAE, Ras Al Khaimah is an emirate of the UAE just up north of Dubai, and most of our work is in the Hajar mountain range. I'm sorry I don't have a map, but nowadays myself and Brigitte Howarth, we collect insect data. So we have this malaise trap in one of the wadis here, and we're busy sort of going through that now. I want to say. Yes, so yes, so that's the end of the talk. I hope I didn't sort of fly through that too quickly. And I hope you all enjoyed it, and I would like to open up to any questions, and just want to say thank you everyone for joining, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Roxana.
Okay.
Hi, it's Basaki here. How are you?
Good, and you?
Just fine. I have a very interesting question. Because some of the wildlife are endangered, are there any what you call artificial increasing the population of wild game for the Arabian leopard?
Not that I know of. No, they're still, as far as I know, they're still doing the surveys. Part of the Khalid and Hadi is still working with the Diwan, and they're still doing the surveys. But I don't think there's any plans to release any.
Yeah,
any
of that, it's very disconcerting that to maintain the population of the Arabian leopard or some other, like even the foxes, it's good to sometime artificially increase the number of game. It's a good idea to recommend.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because
right, yeah.
It's a difficult one to yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know quite how to answer that, but yeah, I know in other places they release wildlife into the reserves and things, but they haven't done that there in Jebel Samhan.
Yeah, I remember even when Devin Attenborough and some of them were taking wildlife pictures, and many people said, you know, oh, we just don't allow that to interfere. Suppose the lion being killed, or this one is being killed, or the some other come, they take the chicks or the babies of the wild game, and many people say this time they interfered, or suppose they no water, give them water. So that's why I was saying this will be a good idea to increase the population of wildlife. Sorry, the population of game, at least for the wildlife.
It's one of the ways, yeah.
Okay, Roxanne. I wanted to make sure that the people who asked questions in the chat asked. There was a leopard question, and I think it was Suzanne. Is Suzanne here? Maybe I got the name wrong, but she wanted to ask about leopards in Oman.
I just wanted to know, since that was 10 years ago, how's the leopard population today?
Oh, okay.
I'm really sorry, I don't know. But I know that I think the population. Sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. I should have looked it up. But I think the population is stable. It's definitely not increasing. But I think there's still quite a good number down there.
And the second part of the question is, when you were there, were you a little bit anxious that would they have ever attacked you?
No, they're so elusive. We'd be lucky to even see one, I think. So it was more thinking about all the little creatures that were coming and sniffing at the tent and stuff. But I don't think there's been an occurrence of a leopard attacking. It's not like the African leopards, where they might be a little bit more dangerous, but yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, please?
Ionti wanted to ask a question about porcupines and hyenas back in Oman. She asked that question second. So do you have any porcupines? I don't know if Ionti wants to ask that question herself. In the lecture, you mentioned that you saw porcupines and hyenas. What is the location of that?
Oh, that's down in the south as well. They don't really occur outside of the Dhofar region up north. They're more so in the Dhofar region and then into Yemen and up in Saudi as well.
I believe Arij has a question, and then Dr. Ali.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I have two questions actually. The first one, were you able to see the Gordon's wildcat in the camera trap? And if you did, like how do you distinguish if it's a house cat or like a feral cat or the Gordon's one?
As far as I know, I don't think we caught Gordon's wildcat, at least during our survey that we did. I'm sure the team there have caught them in camera traps quite often. I think the way to distinguish is quite difficult, especially from camera trap footage. I think it's very difficult actually to determine between the two, because there is a lot of inbreeding, especially in populations close to human habitation and things. So.
Oh, okay, thank you. The second question about the humpback whales. You said they don't migrate, the Gulf of Oman. Is it like, I know like the food there is like the Gulf there is rich with food. Like could we say this is the reason why they don't migrate, or is there something else if you have an idea?
I think that might be the reason. I think that might be the reason. There's no need for them to migrate away. They've got everything. There's the upwellings related to the Kharif, so that encourages a lot of a lot of you know,
Yeah,
food
like it
for the humpback whales, and you know, it really, I think that's the main reason that they don't migrate. There's no need to go anywhere else.
thank you, and it was amazing presentation, really. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Harid.
Dr. Ali, your turn.
Unmute. Yeah, thank you so much indeed. My name is Ali Al-Amoudi. I'm an environmental specialist. I worked with United Nations, UNDP, for like 10 years in the program of sustainable development. I just want to, first of all, thank Miss Roxanne. It's really, you know, I'm really sorry I catch up the last 10 minutes of your presentation, but it's amazing. It's really great.
You. Thank you.
And I'm sorry about what happened because I forgot, you know, the mobile.
Don't worry, it's technology. That's fine.
You know, the problem that I was in front of the ENHG page in email, the first email that I received from them, and I was waiting. I was surprised why at 7 o'clock and nothing is there. But then I came to know that there is another link for your presentation from the ENHG. For that's the reason why I was late. I want to add an interested information about the Arabian leopard. Okay, now I was one of the personal. Sorry.
Wasn't me.
Okay, I was one of the pioneers, I can say, who had the effort to capture in Yemen the male Arabian leopard, and it was very rare. You know, this species was very rare, and the one that is now in Sharjah in the I call it protection. I think
breeding center.
The breeding center.
Yeah.
Yeah. That time I was in Yemen. I'm from Yemen.
Can you imagine? This is just a fluke.
I was a part of United Nations office in Sana'a. And at that time in 1993, I remember, this leopard was about to extinct, to die, because there was an old, you know, villager, Yemeni villager. He was using it to gain money, you know, for his income in a cage, in an iron cage. And the leopard was in a very, very bad, you know, situation. He's about to die. And because of my specialization in wildlife and, you know, and environmental wildlife studies, so I contact through UNDP. We contact the GEF at that time, the Global Environmental Fund, and part of UNDP, UNEP, which is United Nations Environmental Program. And I told him about this. I didn't know about the species. This is very rare species, but it seems the leopard was, you know, about this thing. So we made the sort of communications and, you know, and efforts. So there was, it happened that there was one in Bahrain. He contacted me through United Nations office in Sana'a, and he said, this is a very rare, you know, species of the Arabian leopard. It's not, it's almost extinct, you know, in the Arabian Peninsula. It's only exists in.
Thank you for that commentary, Dr. Ali. We have another question or two, so I think that if you are done with your comments, we'll move on to the next question. We have Weeks.
Yeah, so fantastic talk. I really enjoyed it. With all the light pollution, what efforts, I mean, it's great to take the analyses, but who is following up with the resorts, the stadiums, and the homes to reduce the light pollution? I ask that because I volunteer quite a bit for the U.S. National Parks in Florida, and the lights along the beach, they have a special spectrum that will not attract the sea turtles, and the resorts are doing that also because the resorts realize that there's money to be made and people coming to looking for sea turtles. And I'm kind of surprised that people are not doing that. I mean, there's self-interest there to make sure those lights are the right kind. Now, as far as a soccer stadium, I don't know what you do with that.
Yeah, so after the research and obviously didn't finish off my dissertation, I sent that off to the Environment Society and the Ministry of Environment. Unfortunately, as far as I know, they haven't done anything about it. I think it's more to do with from an economic perspective rather than a not wanting to. That football stadium was at the time quite new, and it was the only thing that the locals sort of had to do in their spare time, other than, you know, obviously they had other things. But what I'm trying to say is I did sort of submit recommendations for what to or how to change their lights, what to use, what type of lights to use that would be better and less of an impact on the turtles. But so far they haven't done anything to reduce that. So that's definitely something that they need to do for long-term conservation on Masirah.
Good question. Okay, we have Annette, and then I believe the list of questions is up. You can freely ask questions after Annette.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Roxy. It was beautiful.
Hi, Annette. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Good.
Thank you for sharing your beautiful pictures with us. I think I should come and visit.
Definitely.
My question is related to the previous speaker's question. In terms of the lighting, is there ongoing surveillance to protect the turtles, or to pick up on the data that you have, and then to determine what the long-term impact would be? Because I'm also worried that those lights may eventually, you know, dwindle the population, and I think we are just onlookers at this point in time. Whereas if somebody is there on a regular basis, then at least they can still impact or influence the authorities to do something whilst they can. Otherwise, I think we're going to really be sad to lose a lot of these turtles in the long term.
So at the time when I was there, the conservation or the research work was very, very much active for many, many years. It was only the last few years that I've heard that there's not so much. I think there are still Omani rangers there collecting data, just general data about nestings and sorry, the general population, sort of the nesting data. But that's all I know. It's not as active as it used to be, as far as I know. Oman really is very much, I would say, focused on conservation, and it's such an important part of the Omani sort of wildlife. I think it's more of an economic factor that they're not. So the Environment Society of Oman are a non-governmental organisation, and they don't have the funds to do a bigger project than they have done before. And I think there's some limitations to what they can do based on funding and things like that. So, but yeah, it's definitely needs long-term monitoring and conservation sort of strategies and things.
Thank you. Then I have a second question regarding the ships in the area where the humpback whales are found. Are those ships still active in that area, or is it from time to time that the ships would get to that area, or what is the actual, you talked about the threats in that area. What exactly is the maybe the little bit of detail regarding the ships in that area?
Yeah, so it's quite a busy shipping route. I know that some of the scientists have continued to do research down there on the impacts of not only the shipping strikes, very directly onto the whales, but also the impact of noise. So if you have two humpback whales trying to communicate with each other and a ship going through, then the calls might not reach other individuals. So it's not only a direct impact of the ships going through that area, but also noise pollution. And I think, from what I know, or from what I've heard, that they're definitely more sensitive to those routes through that sort of strip down the coast there.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you once again. It was a beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, as far as I can tell, that's the end of the official questions in the chat. So if anyone else has further questions or comments, feel free to unmic and chat with Roxanne. Thank you so much, Roxanne.
Thank you.